So I've been making some videos on and off about love elevatism and elevatism recently, and I think maybe I should just clear some of those terms up a little bit. To clear them up completely would be quite difficult because they're quite broad, but the love elevatism thing you can see me talking about is essentially dating in the 20th century brought forward to the future. So everything I'm talking about with present day dating is like aims for dating between 1900 and the year 2000. Well, you could push that up to like 2010, but not really, because then it started getting wrecked. It started getting destroyed by feminism after the 2000s, after 2010 anyway. So we skip that, we skip past what feminism has done, and to go forward, to project ourselves in the future, we take what we had, like moving building blocks, and we put that brick over the brick which is in the timeline, which is feminism fucking came in and tried to destroy male and female traditional coupling. We put that brick after feminism and continue laying the bricks. Treat that as a failed brick, a failed blip, a brick with a crack in it that's not actually going to be part of the foundation of the house. We'll just get rid of it. So, you know, 1900s to 2000, 2000 to 2010, 2010 to 2025, there's this blackened brick. It doesn't fit with the look of the other bricks. It's got a giant crack in it. It's not going to hold weight. It's somehow sat on the wall there. We kind of cemented it in, but we're going to kick it out, right? But we're not going to kick it out just yet. It's still there. It's still a problem. But we're going to lay the next brick, and it's a normal brick. 2025 onwards. And it's the same as the previous bricks that you got. It's the same as how we were doing things in the 20th century, between the wars, between men and women. That's love elevatism. It's an extension sort of thing to elevatism on its own, which is something different. Elevatism on its own is my view of AnCap and what AnCap should be, which is a cooperation between libertarianism, true libertarians who don't want a government at all, not statists, actual libertarians, and AnCaps who go a little further and lean more into objectivism. And you say objectivists too, and agorists, or agorists, however you may pronounce it. I say agorists. So it's a cooperation between all those different types of capitalist anarchists who don't want a state. And it's sort of a purism. It's my view on what AnCap should be. It's taking the views that I learnt about AnCap and then just keeping those and not polluting them further by changing any of the meaning, or like revisionism, or maybe we should come up with a new definition of what property is. No, we keep the ones we got. Private property, it's sacrosanct, it's inviolable. Each person's private property consists of their body, their land, their house, their children, their pets, their possessions, their guns. Those are the main ones, I think. And it explains, as I have explained on this channel every time I've done an AnCap video, elevatism takes that concept of property and also the concept of freedom and self-defense and self-ownership and things, mostly based on things like what Larkin Rose says every day in his videos. It takes those and it tries to keep them solid, principled, and mostly unchanging. It doesn't deny that there are some controversial topics here and there that need to be sorted out, and I try and make videos every now and then when I bump into a controversial or contradicting part of the ideology which needs debate to sort out. Talked about a few of those recently. And there's a difficult part of elevatism is the way you achieve it is slightly different to voluntarism, and the way I talk about the NAP, as far as AnCap's version of the NAP being different from the libertarian version of the NAP. So libertarians, I believe, think that the NAP protects politicians and treats them like politicians, state officers, things like that. People, can't say people, humans like that. The libertarian NAP treats them as someone who is protected from the instigation of violence. It treats them as someone who hasn't done anything wrong and hasn't instigated violence themselves. Whereas the NAP of the AnCaps, I believe, treats politicians as people who have instigated violence against us because taxation is theft, and the use of state officers like police, like army, as force against the public is already the instigation of violence. And there are many examples throughout history where governments have already tried to enslave us, or successfully enslaved us, or instigated violence against us, and they were the first one to do it. They preemptively made that violent attack on us, and we have not yet defended ourselves. And that's what the AnCap version of the NAP is. You can defend yourself against a politician or a politician's bodyguards, and that is self-defense. Whereas a libertarian may use the NAP to say that's not self-defense. So I think that's the two disparities that I see between a libertarian and AnCap. I say, there's the joke, there's the old joke. What's the difference between a libertarian and an AnCap? About 6 months. I think libertarian's also a broad kind of umbrella term, which AnCap is under anyway. What is an AnCap? Well, it's an anarchist. What's an anarchist? Is it one of those commies that are going throughout history? Is it a type of socialist? No, an AnCap is a type of capitalist. An AnCap is a type of libertarian. An AnCap is very close to Randian objectivist. But I still think, even if there is that disparity between AnCap and libertarian, that there should be cooperation between the two. And I think one of the ways that we cooperate between the two is that because of that disparity with the NAP, you can see libertarians as being slightly more peaceful, or voluntarists as being slightly more peaceful in terms of the way we're going to get our society is just to convince everyone not to participate and trade with each other and do all these peaceful things. Whereas I see the AnCap as being less peaceful and more we are under attack. You have to use force to defend your home in the instance of a castle doctrine thing or a violation of property. If you are attacked, what's the point of arms in the Second Amendment? You have to use what some people term as violence and some people term as aggression. That comes in self-defense. You have to actually be spiky. You have to actually physically fight back if someone attacks you. That's the AnCap version of things, but it contains all the same things as libertarianism, but it's about that aspect of aggressively defending yourself. And it's hard to use the word aggression because they put the word A in NAP, the aggression. I made a tweet the other day. I think it shouldn't be called the NAP or the non-aggression principle, because I see aggressive as just going hard and fast, being rough, being spiky in your defense. I don't see aggression as the right word. Violence is closer to the right word. So you could do an NVP, a non-violence principle. I would personally pick an IP, non-instigation principle, or NPP, non-provocation principle, because then you're talking about initial violence. You're not talking about self-defensive violence, because we have to use self-defensive violence, because else how do you defend your home? How do you defend your property from attack? What's even the point of arms or guns or weapons? The point of them should be defensive, but you can't be defensive if you can't ever use them, because you're pure peace to the point of pacifism, not using any aggressive means to defend yourself. So yeah, there's that. So even though you got the libertarians who are and the voluntarist version of libertarians who are we'll do all this peacefully, then you got, I think, the AnCap and the anarchist version of libertarians who are, you've got to be spiky in your self-defense. You've got to have teeth. You've got to be the snake in the Gadsden flag. Yeah, what point is don't tread on me if you're not the snake and you don't have the fangs and you can't bite the leg that treads on you. That's the whole point of that analogy that's in the flag. Elevatism says that libertarians and AnCaps will cooperate in the removal of
Vietnam.
It says that removal of
Vietnam
cannot be done by just simply collectively, well, using collectivism is bad anyway, like collectively persuading a large amount of people just to stop paying taxes and things. Like, there'll always be communists, there'll always be these people who will never, there'll be conservatives, there'll be people who will never go along with what libertarians and AnCaps want, and you can't really get rid of that. But defensively, we have to act against all the instances of violence and slavery that have been done to us. And so within Elevatism, the AnCaps act, and the libertarians have to just deal with that fact that that's going to happen. And the point of the AnCaps acting will be to get the libertarians not into a position of power, like a political party. You know, you're not in a libertarian or anything, but you are removing the parts of the
Vietnam
that do violence on people. You are removing all of their arms that they don't deserve, buildings and money that were stolen, and removing their ability to continue that perpetual cycle of taxation. And once you've removed that ability, the thing they use to constantly project taxation into the future, once that thing has gone, then the libertarians can take over, and they want to do it peacefully without arms, they can, and the AnCaps will still exist to defend property with arms, and none of it will be like police force or anything like that. There won't be policing, there won't be courts, there will be the AnCapistan where there is no taxation going on, and there will be the preservation of the void. There will be some variety of constitution in place which mainly enshrines property rights from violation, and just explains to people the problem with the constitution is it's not something that, like Americans try and use their constitution to keep people in line as if it's like a law set, like government must obey the constitution. Government in America breaks the constitution all the time, so the constitution's pretty useless. The only way a constitution works is for the people who abide by it, who choose to abide by it. So you'd have a constitution in place in an AnCapistan era, as I call it, but it will only be abided by the people who choose to abide by it. So it's a consensual article, and you know, most people will probably not abide by it, and the people who believe in it will abide by it. But for the people who enjoy and understand that once the new AnCapistan era has come about, they're suddenly making tons more money than they had before. The system, the cogs are working a lot smoother than they did before, whether they were an AnCap or libertarian before they got removed, or whether it was after got removed and they were, you know, a communist or a conservative, and they previously saw things working in a way that they thought was nice, and then suddenly in this new era they've been persuaded into our view simply by seeing what's happening, that things are going a lot nicer after that. Whether you're one or the other, you would probably notice that it's a nicer situation because your money's going up higher. You don't have regulations on any of the trade you're doing. Things are just going better in general. There's a lot more peace. People can defend themselves from property violation. The communists, they exist, but you know, they're starting to change their mind because they realize they can't get their way, and actually things are a lot better and they can have their lifestyle under AnCapistan anyway. So, you know, they're less concerned about the old things that they were doing, or they're piled up in doorways because they tried to do something stupid like steal from someone, and they realize in the new society they can't do that, whereas in the old society they just get away with it all the time. And lost my train of thought slightly there, gone off on a tangent slightly, but oh yeah, car. But that's the thing that will happen. There'll be those types of people around who've been persuaded, and those are the types who would abide by this constitution. The constitution would say you have a duty to remove the head of the Hydra, which is anything that tries to become a
Vietnam
in this period of non
Vietnam
is the thing that it is everyone's duty to remove, and you band together. This isn't collectivism, by the way. You band together for a temporary time with a fixed goal that can be either achieved or not achieved, and that is, you know, how individualists group up in individualism to remove the new Hydra, the regrowing head of, because when you
Vietnam
a lot of authoritarians who exist in the public will seize force and go, oh, I know what we need, and you
Vietnam
just my kind of.
Vietnam
Whereas the anti-statists will know that all
Vietnam
of every kind is folly, and they will be the type that abide by the constitution and say that, you know, anything that attempts to be a
Vietnam
or like say a corporation that can purchase its own military, and then, you know, that could be fine, but when it gets to the point that it's using that military to dictate rules and laws onto the public, and they can't go anywhere else, they can't be outside of that system, so it's trying to be a
Vietnam
and so obviously you remove that thing. If it tries to tax you, if it tries to dictate rules towards you when you're not within the sphere of, you know, its services, its products. It's like when you're on a social network like Facebook or something, you're like, oh, you've consensually chose to be on our platform and be bound by our rules for as long as you're here. Yeah, sure, but I'm not bound by those rules outside of Facebook. So if I go outside of Facebook, I don't expect to get a Facebook community guideline strike for something I've said to someone on a street corner when I'm not even on the internet or anything. It's like, yeah, if a corporation goes beyond its remit and tries to become
Vietnam,
it's your duty to remove it. Same for like groups of militias. I mean, militias and private armies and bodyguards and things will exist in large amounts in AnCap because there'll be a market for it. There'll be businesses, self-defense businesses that can be called upon by people who don't have enough arms to defend their home, for instance. Like, they're not part of a large family, maybe it's like an old granny living alone who's disabled, she's got a gun, everything. The great equalizer, which is a term I'm starting to dislike, but it's one that you use for this situation. Check out my last AnCap video, I think. Yeah, that sort of person would call in private militias and bodyguards to help them defend their property. But, you know, you can tell the difference between a militia that is a business, that is helping people, that is defending property, that is doing business, being called in and paid and traded with, and a militia that is trying to be an army, that is trying to be a
Vietnam,
like it's trying to get into the seat of
Vietnam,
it's trying to be recognized as this thing that dictates rules to you and forces you to pay up money, taxation, which is, you know, it would be a lot clearer for taxation to be seen as what it is, theft, when you're in this AnCap state. Anyway, I've gone off on quite a few tangents there to explain elevatism, but that's the thing, you know, the AnCaps will do the job of getting us there, because they don't believe that the libertarians can do it via just convincing people to voluntarily stop paying taxes all at once, because that won't just magically happen, or stop
Vietnam
and things. It won't happen. Mass non-compliance, you get a certain degree of non-compliance, but you won't get the sort of numbers they're expecting. And I think Larkin and various other people say, oh, for voluntarism type of libertarianism, you only need a certain smaller percentage of people to stop paying taxes before the entire system collapses. Like, I think it's like 10% or something, because they won't get enough money. I'm not sure how much I believe that, because I think they'll
Vietnam,
still procure a huge amount of money from that 90% that is still taxing, and they'll use that on the 10% who don't tax, who don't let themselves be stolen tax money from. I hate the term paying taxes. It's so wrong. So I think that part of voluntarism and egoism and libertarianism, I think the problem is the state officers. They're the ones that keep government having its power. They're the ones that keep the cycle of taxation going.
They are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors. They are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
So for it to all work, for us to get to this stage that libertarians want to reach, you have to do something about the state officers, and it has to be defensive. And also it helps to mock the state officers, it helps to laugh at them, it helps obviously to non-comply, it helps to point out that they're not even following their own rules that they think they're following. Like when they try and arrest someone, it's like you can call them up on their own law. There are other tactics, of course. Larkin's got some good tactics which are semi-peaceful, which is like using bureaucracy against bureaucrats, like making it more of a waste of time and resources for a bureaucrat to follow its own laws than it can take. That's an interesting tactic that Larkin has. I also admire some of the agitprop tactics here and there from Freedom Alternative, but you know, some of it strays into, you know, using the left's tactics against them, and that's no good. But some of it is like winning a lot of ideological ground and them not realizing it. That's quite clever. But yeah, once you've got past that problem with the state officers forcing everyone to pay tax, once you've got past that hurdle, that obstacle, then the AnCaps can not give power to the libertarians, but the AnCaps can like say, okay, we can all do the libertarian thing, we can all do the peaceful trading thing that you guys want, until the Hydra grows a new head, and then we've got to get back to our way of things and deal with that to keep your peaceful trading thing going. All in all, I think the NAP thing is a problem. Not only is it worded badly, but it's defined badly and no one's really agreeing on what it is. And I think part of the key to that is having it apply to
Vietnam,
or not apply to
Vietnam,
depending on how you're phrasing it. Having it apply in such a way that it recognizes that the
Vietnam,
drug first, and that we are defending ourselves. So that's Elevatism. Elevatism works with love Elevatism in that it goes back to the anti-SJW thing of we're attacking the feminism side of socialism, which is seeking to destroy male-female relationships, which in itself, you know, if you break down male-female relationships and trust between men and women, you kind of control society in a lot of ways, and you can make the children of husbands and wives, fathers and mothers, you can make those children into soldiers for the state who are indoctrinated and future devout worshippers of the socialist state. So it's an anti-communism thing, that. But it's not just about the babies that come from relationships, traditionalist relationships. It's about love itself, and, you know, half of the world getting on with the other half of the world and elevating what love is, how it is seen by people, because feminism has put love down, like squashed it down, crushed it down, dropped it to a lower level in people's consciousness. Like, I mean, like, you could see feminism's effect. I was just looking at like random content from Filipinos the other day, because, you know, I had some friends in the Philippines, but that country has been so heavily influenced by communism, especially ever since lockdowns, that it's a completely different place now, and they'll just randomly spew out communist propaganda like it's casual, particularly like anti-love and anti-relationship propaganda. And they'll just be like, throw that out there. And a lot of American teenagers and youngsters have been programmed to do this as well. Like, they've gone into The colleges and universities, which we haven't fixed yet, they're still full-on leftist indoctrination factories, and they come out of those places thinking men are the enemy and relationships are evil and it's good to be single, and they're taught this bullshit like self-love and how being single is amazing and how relationships are evil and all this shit that is wrong. Elevatism seeks to undo that by elevating love, and yeah, that is a part of the elevatism that is AnCap stuff, the love elevatism. I think we need those together, and I think it works as well because, like, Ayn Rand in her writings in Objectivism, she had a huge thing about love and relationships and keeping that romantic 20th century coupling concept alive. You know, keeping also that biological component of us that, you know, a male member of our human species goes together with a female member of our human species, and that's a natural biological thing. You know, that has to be part of us furthering what we do into the future. Anyway, that's enough on that. I hope it's a little bit clearer, and part of this is Fed posting. I'm very well aware of what AnCap elevatism is and what love elevatism as a component of that also is. Thank you for watching.
What do you see? Businessmen, teachers, lawyers, carpenters, the very minds of the people we are trying to save. But until we do, these people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy. You have to understand, most of these people, many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.